the
So
FFP.
this can we segue into this FFP thing? I know that or do you want to
Yeah.
talk about? Do you want to talk about United and
No,
Spurs?
we can go. Let's go to the FFP. Yeah.
Okay, so we have this FFP thing with Nottingham Forest and Everton being hit for this year's 3-year period where they could potentially get more dock points. We know about Everton getting hit. We sort of assumed something was going on with Forest. Like, how the hell did they buy 35 players in a one window period? There's no way that team has that kind of revenue. We know that FFP is essentially this system where you can only spend based on what you earn. What does that do? That means that rich teams stay rich and can always carry on more debt, and teams coming up can't spend. So we have a case of Newcastle. Newcastle have the revenue that they had under Ashley, which is probably 50 million, and you could spend up to 100 million in debt. But actually, the PIF has $50 billion in assets, yet you can't use it. So who does that?
Yep.
Who is benefiting from that system right now? I'll tell you who's benefiting: Liverpool, Manchester United, Aston Villa, City, Spurs, Arsenal. Because there isn't you basically have a caged animal behind you in Newcastle, chomping at the bit, spilling blood, salivating at buying players, and this FFP crap is stopping them from spending. I want the competition. Bring it on. Let them spend another $1 billion. The money goes through all of football. Who cares? The Premier League is wonderful because of the competition. And this FFP stuff is anti-competition, anti-investment. It's hurting a team like Nottingham Forest, who wants to stay in a division, wants to spend money. Mavropanos wants to stay in the Premier League and spend money on players. And he gets rid of Steve Cooper, who's not using the players that he bought, because he wants to compete and fight and go up the table. But we're going to take points away because he didn't spend it right because of accounting. It's bullshit. It's a scam. It's a racket to keep things the way they are. That's my take right there.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist or
It's not a
you know,
conspiracy. It just is.
yeah, yeah, and I can see that. I can definitely see that, and it puts there's supposed to be a benefit to this, or what the real what the reasoning behind all this, obviously, or what they say to the public is that, of course, they want to keep clubs from spending money that they don't have. But
Okay. But what if you have it?
exactly, exactly the point. You can't treat everybody equal. I mean, it is what
No.
it is because life
Yeah.
is not like that.
Yes. Exactly.
I can't. And Jordy's is saying, FFP saves clubs too. I get that,
Which club
but
got saved by FFP? Tell me.
well, that's the purpose, right? If Crystal Palace right now, or are just saying, you know what, we're going to be the next PSG, start getting money or getting some of these players that are cost a lot of money, get loans, then they put the club in a bad predicament because they can't pay their salaries, they can't even pay the transfer fees. So I don't even know if they would get them, but you
If
get the point.
we had
Like,
had FFP through all of Premier League history, the top four would be the same top four that it's been for 100 years. It would
hey,
be
Newcastle would be tough.
Arsenal, it would be Arsenal, it would be United. And what are the two clubs that have slipped the most since Chelsea and City started spending money? United and Arsenal. So whose interest is it to block all this stuff from happening? Who benefits from this program being put in place? Don't tell me it's Bolton. Don't tell me it's Bury. Don't tell me it's it's Scunthorpe United. Don't tell me about all these small clubs that are floating around. Portsmouth. So yeah, is Portsmouth gone? No, they still exist. Is QPR still around? Yes. They got hit with FFP and they got sent down. What is the purpose? Is it to prevent clubs from going under, to save themselves from themselves? I just don't. I think that what makes the Premier League dynamic is the fact that it's unfettered, is the fact that it pushes teams to the edge, is the fact that money can be poured in. That's what makes it what it is. I would argue that Chelsea and City have done more for making the Premier League stronger than the work of Arsenal and Man United. Those were already big clubs, but the investment, the trouble, the pushing, the desire to break the glass ceiling, is what broke that through. Sure, Glasgow Rangers, that's not an English club. They're not governed by that. They went down. Phoenix Club, they went right back up. The systems were already in place. You can simply declare bankruptcy, remake the club, and start the investment all over again. I don't agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Teams spend money and fail. You know why? Because they are not competent. Leeds is really the big
Exactly.
one that we talk about the most. Leeds really got themselves into trouble because they were assuming they'd make the
Um,
Champions League and then missed it and then went under.
yeah, so I mean that's really basically what we're dealing with at this point, and it's frustrating because you really
Yeah.
have your hands tight. If you think about it, you know, there should be maybe audits to say like, look, there should be FFP categories. Like let's audit. What is your income? Look, I know that they don't want to say that Saudi Arabia, this state of Saudi Arabia, the kingdom or whatever they call it. I don't know. That they own Newcastle. They like to say the PIF owns it, who is owned by Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get that, but at the end of the day, you do got to look at the owners. Or just look at the PIF. I mean, the PIF got all the money right there.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
like, do an audit. Say, look, they have this amount of money. It is what it is. Life works out that way. I can't tell the rich guy in front
Yeah.
of my house not to get a boat. I mean,
Yeah.
just because I can't afford it. I mean,
Yeah, and I think Georgie's making a good point. Is like there have been moments where there have been unscrupulous owners who've done things. The owner before Manchester City, before Sheikh Mansour Srinivasan from the Thailand, he essentially tried to run away with the money and was trying to hide his assets by buying Manchester City. That is on the Premier League to make sure the people who buy the club have the money they say they have, right? That's not on these things. Now, I am not unaware of the irony of a Newcastle fan owned by the PIF and a City fan owned by the Abu Dhabi group as the irony of it. So it is funny, but I just and we're talking about it from our own best interest, our own personal interests. I just don't like that we don't call out what it is. It is capture to keep things the way they are. Sport is conservative by nature. It just does not like change and people to upset the cart. Yes, Newcastle needs to build up its empire, and it will take time for certain. Or you can just get a sponsorship and inflate the value of it and develop 150 charges against them, which is what
yeah,
City did. I don't mind. Like, I know what City did. I understand they wanted to be like, you know what, Manchester City, we're not Manchester United. We're not waiting. We're coming after you. And so they bent the rules. And
yeah,
they did pay a fine for that. And they did get hit with FFP. We're getting hit with the same FFP because of emails that came out. So it's a
yeah.
little bit trickier. It does take time.